You know what? Someone left a comment on one of my videos saying, "Stop recording, bro. Slenderman's near." And every single time I fucking set up to record, I just look at my shitty ass camera and I think of that guy. So, whoever you are, bro, thank you. You've ruined my life. With another tier list, I put a little poll out. Poll. I'm not sure I'd say that. I apologize. I'm British. Out on the channel with 2 video ideas. Which one do you want? This one got the most votes, so this is what we're doing. We're doing a weight class tier list, as in out of all the weight classes in the UFC, who do I think, or what weight class do I think is the best? Obviously, it's completely subjective. If you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments. But yeah, let's get it started. I'm going to start with heavyweight. Now, heavyweight is slowly getting better. Obviously, we've got the likes of Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall. We've got John Jones as the champion now. A few years ago, heavyweight was looking rough. But yeah, it's looking promising. We've got Pavlovich. You know, there's some decent fighters coming up. Obviously, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, those kind of guys are like almost like the new gen of heavyweight. You know, they move faster. They're starting to look a lot more like the rest of the roster. Low kicks, things like that. It isn't just a big overhand right in heavyweight these days, although we all do love Derek Lewis. Heavyweight, I'm going to put in B tier. And I also just want to say, a few people suggested that I do my tier list like this instead of putting in, like, for example, I had Fluke win in one of my tier lists, the Modern Champions one, and it was stopping me from putting people in that tier because they didn't technically have a Fluke win, so everything was just like very top heavy in that tier list. This one would be a lot more spread out. Thank you to everybody that suggested that. It was, I don't know why I overlooked that. That was, stupid. B tier for heavyweight. In the grand scheme of things, we all love heavyweight. We all like a good heavyweight fight. But unranked heavyweight is probably the shallowest. Unranked heavyweight, or maybe a different weight class that I'll get on later in the video, are the shallowest weight classes. It's very top heavy. The top 7-8 guys are like the only good fighters in the whole division, and ultimately that makes for a bad division in my opinion. But it is heavyweight, and compared to some of the other weight classes, it does save its position in this tier list. So I think the middle of the pack is where it should go. Next, we've got light heavyweight. Now, light heavyweight, again, is getting much better these days. Obviously, used to be the marquee division of the UFC, used to be the best division in the UFC. John Jones, Machida, Shogun Rua, Chuck Liddell, Rampage Jackson. So many great fighters were fighting in light heavyweight at that time. When John Jones was stripped and DC had the belt, and that whole time, it was still pretty good. But then in between then and now, when John Jones left, and it was like Anthony Smith and like Yuri hadn't won the belt yet, Glover and Yan, there was some good fights, but it was a bit boring. Light heavyweight main event on a pay-per-view was a bit like, come on, like, we don't care at this point. But they have saved themselves. You've obviously got Yuri, you've got Alex Pereira in the division now, which makes it a lot more exciting. You've got one of my favourite fighters on the whole roster, which is Krylov, finally making a bit more of a run towards the belt. I'm excited to see what he does. And just overall, light heavyweight is getting much better. I enjoy light heavyweight a lot more than I used to. Jamal Hill's a great fighter. There's some genuinely good fighters at the top. Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz, of course. I wish Gustafsson was still around, but that's just, we'll talk about that in another video. Light heavyweight, I'm going to put in B tier, but I'm going to put it in front of heavyweight. I think light heavyweight, I would watch more. Let's put it this way. If all the ranked top 15 of light heavyweight were matched up on a card, and all the ranked 15 of heavyweight was matched up on a different card, and I had to choose one card to watch, I would be watching the light heavyweights. Middleweight. Now, this one may be a little bit controversial because, again, similar to light heavyweight, just a couple of years ago, people were fucking hating middleweight. And now middleweight, in my opinion, is A tier. My favourite fighter on the roster right now out of anybody is probably Roman Kopylov. We've got Sean Strickland as the champion, who I also love. I've got a lot of boys in middleweight that I enjoy. I know Beardew just got smoked, but I like Beardew. I like Brendan Allen. And now you've got Bo Nickel. You've got Hamzat. You've got Joe Pyfer. You've got people outside the rankings that are creeping up that are actually solid fighters. I think in another year, when Kopylov is a bit higher up the division, Bo Nickel's made a few fights and got higher up the division, and Pyfer's higher as well. When those guys are kind of starting to fight each other, I think middleweight is going to look great. Just like Tom Aspinall in heavyweight is kind of like setting a new generation, a new trend for that division. I think these guys coming up, like Pyfer, like Bo Nickel, even Hamzat. You forget Hamzat's been signed for a few years, but he's only had a few fights in the UFC. He's not necessarily a prospect, but you know, he's there. Now, welterweight is another one of those divisions that will probably look much better on this tier list next year than it does right now. But ultimately, welterweight is still a stacked division. You've got Kevin Hollands at welterweight now. You've got Jack Della Maddalena. You've got Bilal Muhammad. I won't get into that. You've got Shavkat, Gilbert Burns. You've got people like Islam and Poirier that potentially might move up to welterweight. You've got Leon is the champ, who I'm a big fan of. You've got some solid fighters in welterweight. Colby's about to fight for the belt. If he gets the belt, he'll make a big splash about the welterweight division. Make the welterweight division great again. You know, all of that shit he was saying a few years ago, he could actually do. Make it, you know, get a lot of eyes on that division. I think it goes welterweight in A tier. And I would put it behind middleweight. Would I? You know what? I would probably put it in front of middleweight now that Alex has left the division and Izzy's taking time off. In star power and skill, just because those two are such good fighters, it kind of take, you know, the rest of the rankings other than like Whitaker, Strickland, you know, Cannonier, you've got people like Vittori, Costa, they don't really fight much, you know, so I would put welterweight in front of middleweight. Next we've got lightweight. I think you know where this is going. Lightweight has to go chicken salad. Can't not put lightweight at the top. It would be cool to be like an edgy guy and be like, well, actually my favorite division's flyweight. Shut up. No, it's not. Lightweight's a banger. You've got the top 10. It's filled with stars, filled with amazing people. You know, Beneil Dariush, Charles Oliveira, Islam, Poirier, Gaethje, McGregor's still around. RDA's there, even though he's not really there. But just looking at the rankings, you know, these names, you know, they're big names. You've got Fiziev, you've got Gamrot, Saryukian. You know, it's a stacked division. There's always bangers. Even people like Bobby Green put on bangers. Tony Ferguson's old as fuck, but, you know, I don't know why I'm mentioning Tony Ferguson. No, I'm just sad. Featherweight. This one might be another controversial one. I think ultimately, I love Volk. Ortega doesn't really fight. I love Max Holloway. But the rest of the guys, other than maybe Keita and a few others in the top 10 are kind of like... I mean, Ortega doesn't fight, and I'm pretty sure he's in the top 5. No, you've got people in that division in the top 10, top 15 that just shouldn't be there. But then the counter to that is, well, who should replace him? Featherweight doesn't have many prospects. You've got people like Sadiq Youssef that you could maybe consider a prospect. He has had a couple of losses, but only to the best. You've got Arnold Allen, who's managed to get himself up there, which is great. You've got people like Diego Lopez making a bit of noise, but other than that, who have you got? I mean, my favourite featherweight personally is Nathaniel Wood, but he has been fucked over twice in a row, and I'm not even just being a salty, like, I'm not just coping. The ref fucked him in that last fight. The guy who he was fighting was cheating every fucking round and got away with it. But again, conversation for another video. Featherweight, I would put in B tier. And I know this might be a controversial one. Everyone loves Max. Everyone loves Topuria and stuff. I'm going to put it behind light heavyweight and heavyweight. In fact, I might just do this. Put it in between like heavyweight and heavyweight. Yeah, I think it should go there. Ultimately, Volk wiped Max out 3 times and Max is beating everybody else. And them kind of situations just sort of make for a bit of a stale division. The same thing happened in middleweight with Izzy and Rob. But obviously Alex signed for the UFC. We got Strickland up there. So ultimately the middleweight division... The featherweight division needs a bit of a change like the middleweight division did. And it would be a lot better, I think. Maybe Topuria is the one... to, you know, maybe the Topuria era is among us, and maybe featherweight would be higher on this list next time. Bantamweight. Now, Bantamweight has just had Sean O'Malley win the belt, which I genuinely never thought would happen. I don't mind saying that. Piotr Yan is on like a 3-fight losing streak or 2-fight losing streak, which also breaks my heart, and also I never thought would happen. Sterling and Merab are in some weird stalemate, which is kind of holding up the whole division. Sandhagen's closing in on the belt again, which I'm very happy for. And Song Yudong, who I think is a future title contender. The bantamweight division is looking good, but ultimately the thing that carries the bantamweight division, in my opinion, is just the skill level there. I mean, 135 is a weight class where, yes, people do punch hard and knock each other out, but you've got absolute technicians there like Cheeto, like O'Malley, even Sterling with the grappling. You've got Merab, Piotr Yan, Song Yudong, like I said. You've got Corey Sandhagen, Umar Nurmagomedov. You know, you've got so many amazing fighters in bantamweight, and ultimately, I think the star power of some of the guys in bantamweight is just below lightweight, so I would put them in. I tell you what, we'll do it properly and we'll just have one weight class in S tier for this video, and that'll be lightweight. Bantamweight follows closely, but ultimately lightweight has people like Conor McGregor. You know, you can't you can't really compete with the star power of people like Islam and Conor and stuff like that. Poirier and Gaethje, you know, these are all pay-per-view main eventers. I mean, they gave the BMF belt to Poirier and Gaethje so they could make that a pay-per-view because they knew how many buys that would draw. There's so many stars in the lightweight division, so ultimately I think they take that edge. Flyweight. Now, I'm not going to front. Flyweight, in my opinion, outside the top 5 is rough. I like Kai Kara France in the cage. I do like Minnow Cap. I like Pantoja. Pantoja is my favorite flyweight. I really, really rate Pantoja. I think he'll hold that belt for a while. I like Moreno. I like Figgy, but ultimately flyweight. When Cejudo was there, I think I enjoyed it a little bit better. I know there's some better fighters in the division now, but there's just something about flyweight. Like, yes, the fights are always good. Yes, they're wars. You know, you have to respect the flyweights. I don't know what it is. Maybe there is some weird psychology where it's like, because they're so small, like nobody cares. I don't know what it is. Because I love the flyweights, but I would rather have any other men's weight class like instead. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. And for that, first weight class in C-tier, I know a bunch of Brandon Moreno fans just tried to kill themselves by stepping on Lego, but I apologise. I do like Alexandre Pantoja. He's probably top 5 of my favourites in the UFC. I preferred women's bantamweight years ago. I think everybody did. Before Holly Holm turned into a cage wrestler. Before Rousey got exposed. You know, all of that kind of shit. I won't discuss this one too much because honestly there's not much to say. The bantamweight women's division is kind of a mess right now. And I think bantamweight women's, I think going Mike Jackson. I apologise. Featherweight women's, I don't even know if this is still a thing. Was basically just created to give Nunes a second belt. Bottom tier at the end. Don't have much to say about that. The division's kind of dead. Bring back Ronda Rousey at UFC 300 for the 145 belt. Get all the other girls to go up and chase her. I think Rousey could probably beat a few of these people at this point. She could probably pull an armbar off on Pena or any of these other fucking girls. So why not? Until then, I debated even putting it on this list, but yeah, ultimately Mike Jackson for bantamweight and featherweight. Strawweight, I would put in C tier behind flyweight. You know what? Will I do this? No. Will I? No, I won't. Those two are very close for me, flyweight and women's strawweight. Women's strawweight is probably my favourite women's division these days. I mean, it's not a very controversial take, is it? I preferred when obviously people like Rose, Joanna was fighting around here, but ultimately it's still decent. Whaley is a good fighter. I like Tatiana Suarez. But yeah, we'll see what happens with women's strawweight. But yeah, C tier. And then women's flyweight, I do think, again, in a couple of years, women's flyweight will be much better. But ultimately, I go C tier behind women's strawweight. I know this is a pretty generic list. Like, if you asked any MMA fan to do a tier list, it would probably be this with like 2 or 3 changed. But yeah, this is what I think. Let me know what you think, of course. In the last video, I said hopefully by the next video I post, we'll be a bit closer to 400 subs. We're now soaring past that. We're almost at 500 subs. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm pushing to 1K. I'm going to be live streaming soon, all of that. I really want to try and put so much content out. I know a lot of people enjoy when you find a new creator and they have plenty of stuff for you to watch. So yeah, I'm trying to upload every day. I do have a bunch of uni work and I do work full time and I do make music as like a part-time thing as well. So ultimately my hands are a bit fucking full, but this is kind of taking top priority right now. I've wanted to make an MMA channel since I was a teenager. I finally do it and I get so much love and so much support and the algorithm blesses me, you know. I appreciate all the love, man. I really do. Yeah, man. I don't know. My name's Harry. I talk about fights. Bang! There's a picture of fat Darren Till. Appreciate everyone watching. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much. Jorge Masvidal is only a BMF because he assaults people on the street. See you tomorrow.